is the overview of my talk. We will firstly talk about what are considered plant-based diets. Then next we will talk about how plant-based diets work to improve heart health. Then we will look at the evidence for whether plant-based diets work to improve heart health. So what do we mean when we say plant-based diets? As long as there are low or no animal products, it can be classified as plant-based diets. And there are various names and types as listed below. So vegan means 100% plants without animal products, and the rest are as follows. For example, if you add dairy products, then it's lacto-vegetarian. If you add fish, eggs, dairy, then it's pescatarian, and so on and so forth. So all these are plant-based diets. So our cardiac societies have been recommending a diet that is plant emphasizing for quite some time, and there is lots of observational evidence for such a diet. The ideal heart healthy diet that is recommended by our guidelines has good amounts of vegetables and fruits, is low in saturated fats, and the dietitian will probably go through in detail in her talk. And also this diet is low in red meat. So what I would like to say is that our current recommended diet is already a plant emphasizing diet. But what we want to look at today is whether other types of plant-based diets have further benefits, so I shall go on. We now know that plant-based diet is good for cardiac health, but which plant-based diet is best? So for discussion purposes, I classified the different plant-based diets into these three categories, simply because some of the bigger studies that have been done were designed with similar classifications. Type 1 I will call the veggie diet. This includes vegetarian and vegan diets. Vegetarian means they do not eat meat or fish, but they may take some dairy products or egg. Vegan means they do not take any animal products at all. For example, they do not even take milk or eggs. Type 2 is the fish and veg diet, so it is everything in type 1 but with fish added on. Type 3 is called the low meat diet. In this diet, individuals may take components from the type 2 diet, and on top of that they take low amounts of red and white meat, or they may not take any red meat at all. So this is the type 3 diet. So for the type 1 diet, the veggie diet, a recent systematic review was done on it. A systematic review is where multiple relevant studies were put together and analyzed. This one included studies on both vegan and vegetarian diets. It found that vegetarian diet was associated with lower heart disease, and also found that vegetarians had less cancer as compared to the normal diet. In this systematic review, there were inadequate studies for them to look at heart disease and vegan diet. However, they were able to look at cancer, and they found that there was less cancer in vegans. Okay, and vegetarians on average in this review had a lower bad cholesterol than those on normal diet by 0.5 millimoles per liter, and vegans had a lower LDL by 0.6 millimoles per liter compared to normal diet. And in a recent large study in the UK, it was found that vegan and vegetarian diets were associated with lower heart disease. However, it also found the risk of hemorrhagic stroke was higher for vegetarians and vegans. So strokes can happen from an artery in the brain getting blocked, and that's ischemic stroke, or can happen due to sudden bleeding in the brain, that's called hemorrhagic stroke. So the risk of having stroke from bleeding in the brain was higher for vegans and vegetarians as compared to those on a normal diet. And you may wonder if perhaps the vegans and vegetarians were bleeding more, not because of the diet, but because of something else, for example, their lifestyle. But the study adjusted for various factors like age, education, gender, exercise, smoking, etc. And the result was still that there was more bleeding type strokes in vegetarians and vegans. Okay, so we move on to the fish and veg diet, the type 2 diet. So this is actually type 1 diet but with fish added on. So it was found in the earlier mentioned large UK study to be associated with lower rates of heart disease and didn't significantly increase hemorrhagic stroke or any type of stroke. So it seems to have the best of both worlds when people take a more moderated diet with fish added on rather than a pure vegan or vegetarian diet. Now we move on to type 3, the low meat diet. For people taking such diets, they found the more plants in the low meat diets, the better the outcome. In a prospective study in the US, they graded the amount of plant-based food in the diet by using a plant-based index or PDI. The higher the amount of plants in the diet, the higher the PDI. Those with the highest PDI were compared to those with the lowest, and it was found that the highest PDI was associated with less stroke and heart disease and less death from stroke and heart disease. So the more plants in the low meat diets, the better. Another index called the Healthy Plant-Based Index, or HPDI, was calculated also. So basically, healthy plant foods will increase this HPDI. So plant foods can also be divided into healthy plant foods and unhealthy plant foods. So healthy plant foods are things like whole grains, fruits and vegetables, nuts and legumes, vegetable oils, tea and coffee. And the unhealthy plant foods were fruit juices, sweetened beverages, refined grains, fries, sweets and desserts. So basically they found that those who had the highest HPDI had less death from stroke and heart disease, and unhealthy plant foods reflected in the UPDI was not associated with better outcome. So not only do we have to take more plant foods, we should also make sure we choose healthy plant foods rather than unhealthy plant foods which don't bring any benefit. So it was found that those who did the best with the highest PDI and HPDI, they consume on average 4 to 5 servings of fruit and vegetables per day, and they didn't take red meat every day. So the amount of red meat was very limited. There were other studies as well, like another study in the UK that showed that HPDI was associated with lower stroke and heart attack. Yeah. Okay, to sum up, plant-based diets decrease heart disease. The more plants, the better, even up to 7 servings a day or 4 to 5 servings in studies looking at the PDI. So we should limit the red and processed meat, and vegetarian diet and diet containing fish reduce heart disease compared to normal meat-eating diets. However, there seemed to be increased hemorrhagic stroke in vegetarians compared to meat eaters. There was no significant increase in hemorrhagic stroke for fish-containing diets. I think more data is needed. These were all in a Western population. Yeah. And vegetarian diet and vegan diet brought down the bad cholesterol by about 0.5 to 0.6 millimoles per liter on average. So do you think after we have gone through all this that we can just take plant-based diet to prevent heart disease? So of course the answer is no. So there are many important factors which cause artery blockage, like high sugar level, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. So above a certain level of bad cholesterol, then you are more likely to accumulate further blockages. So the level is actually important. And cigarette smoking causes blockages, lack of exercise also. So there's no single magic pill in plant-based diets as well to prevent heart disease. It is actually the global sum of all our efforts in all these areas that counts. So it's been found that simply by doing 4 things, it decreases heart disease by 40%. So all these listed here. So, and that's all I have for today. Thank you.